Chakka Vivadamula Sutta, the sixth discourse on the roots of dispute, A6.36. Chakka means sixes, sets of six, or septet. Sestet rather, sestet. Vivada, vada means speech. We, prefix we means to divide, speech to divide, meaning dispute. And mula means root. The six conditions that promote discord. So this is a teaching the Buddha gave to the monks. From this kind of teaching, we can conclude that it's given to the monks at a time when the Sangha is quite big, and lots of monks who are not yet awakened, not yet arahats, so not even stream winners. So you find when they're in big groups, they tend to have all kinds of disputes and disagreements and bad blood, we say. Yeah. So here, the Buddha discerns six pairs of negative emotions, if you like. All these six can be summarized into what are called the four kinds of biases, agati, greed, hate, delusion, fear, where we all react in negative ways or even break the precepts because of one of these four biases, either out of greed or lust, hate, delusion, fear. So here we have six pairs. You have anger and resentment. This is section 1.1. And then meanness and spitefulness, envy and selfishness, craftiness and deceit, bad desire, wrong views. And then the last one is kind of like, it's almost a single idea, holding on to your views, right or wrong. So you have the four biases, which are an extension of the three roots. Greed, hate, delusion are the three roots. Of course, the three roots are more compact. So fear can arise from any of the three unwholesome roots. Right? For example, when we are lustful, when we desire something, we have the fear of losing it. When we hate someone or when we show hatred, there is this fear that something might happen to us or we're going to lose something. And delusion is when you have a wrong idea about something, right? So that also causes fear. So, in a sense, fear is a part of all the three unwholesome roots. In the four biases, fear is identified by itself, so that we can talk about it, discuss it, identify it also if it is troubling us. So this kind of instruction, of course, is very useful. This is a kind of a social and psychological teaching. It's not just for the monks, it's for lay people in our daily life, whenever we deal with people. Right, so here's page 143. It's the same page as me, 143? Same, huh? Chakka Vivadamula Sutta, the sixth discourse on the roots of quarrel, or roots of dispute. 141, is it? Okay. Oh, in the front page I put the roots of dispute. So here, 141, roots of quarrel. So it's good to standardize it. Bhikshus, there are these six roots of dispute. What are the six, right? So people can, have disagreements on account of six reasons. They're called roots because these negative emotions, they go right down to this basic feeling. So if you deal with this kind of feeling, you overcome the problem. Right? So it's not just a matter of resolving problems, it's also, because people can still be unhappy, even though a problem is resolved. Although they know it is right, but they do not feel it is good. So this feeling aspect is very important. That is why in other teaching you see the Buddha encouraging us to practice the 4 immeasurables. That is loving kindness, compassion, gladness, and equanimity. Or in simple terms, love, ruth, joy, and peace. They are called immeasurables because they humanize us and then they divinize us. They remind us of our human states, and from being human we can rise above the powers of our senses to live like the gods. Right? To be divine means not to be limited by your physical senses. You see this kind of struggle throughout human civilization. It is called the arts. Right? Of course, the sciences are often in service of the arts. For example, how you cut a piece of stone. For a beautiful statue, you have to have science, measurements. Then this stone, you have this piece of stone, and then you have this artist who envisions something beautiful. You've got to define what's beautiful. It depends on the culture. You find you study all the various civilizations of the world, from the most ancient in Mesopotamia to China to wherever. You find they all have their different ideas of beauty. Even today, you have different countries, different cultures have different ideas of beauty. In simple terms, beauty gives a sense of joy to us. And this joy is overpowering. It gives you a sense of selflessness. You begin to be able to see the way another person who sees the beauty of this art or this form or this. It can be also in a way of action, like dance and so on. Okay. So once you can see this beauty, then you feel the joy, and this joy is a kind of like a universal language. So they kind of go together. Okay, this whole thing is called aesthetics, right? So when you measure something, then you kind of bring it down to earth in a physical sense. And this is one of the big problems going on in our world today. In our modern urbanized society, we are all born with a price tag on us. Almost on the day we are born, there's a price on our head, in the sense that we are told how much we are worth, right? So we are sent to school, we are reminded what school subjects are worth pursuing, what not worth pursuing, how we should lead our lives so that we make enough money or more than enough money, and so on and so forth. So the question is this: what happens to us if we follow this kind of trajectory? We allow people to measure us. Well, I suppose we can't stop that. That happens in the world today, whether you like it or not. But we certainly need not resign ourselves to it. We can say, okay, that's a part of our life, the so-called professional life. That is why there are holidays, and you're not like 24 hours, that kind of measured commodity. The thinkers like Erich Fromm, they say the danger of such measurements is that we will end up as robots. We become just like everyone else. So we do not have any individuality. The individuality and selfhood, or selfness, if you like, are different. Individuality means the ability to think for yourself, to be creative, to express yourself. So, but if you are not an individual, then you will not be able to think for yourself. You'll be simply following a crowd, in other words. So in that sense, we end up as robots. Our actions are predictable, and we'll be depressed, we'll be sad, we won't be happy. We do not know what happiness is, right? So this is a danger that we are warned about, the dangers of measurement. And now once you see this kind of danger, you begin to understand why the Buddha from the beginning already talked about the immeasurables, apamanya, right? So we think, apamanya is just another practice, loving kindness. But we don't know the value until today. If you look at the world, you say, wow, people are measuring things. So opposite of that is non-measuring. So when you show loving kindness, you say, may all beings be well and happy. You don't measure it. When you look at yourself, you don't measure your good qualities. How do you measure love? How do you measure joy, peace? These are real defining qualities of life which cannot be measured. And this is at the heart of Buddhism, if you like, right? So you have the measurable aspects in a way. Maybe the rituals are the measurable aspects. But in Buddhism, you find most of the rituals are confined to the Vinaya as by way of rules and practices. But the real practice, the Dharma, is you open up yourself, right? So once you understand the immeasurables, then you'll be happy, in other words. So what our sutta today is telling us is that if you lack that immeasurability, that the quality of, very simply put, one main quality, loving kindness, then you are bound to end up quarreling, right? So this lack of immeasurableness leads to 6 ways in which disputes can arise. Yeah? Okay, so let's look at the suttas. Section 1. Bhikshus, there are these 6 roots of dispute. What are the 6? Here, bhikshus, among is angry, resentful. Right, so you have 2 words. Kodano. Kodano simply means anger, angry, and upanahi, resentful. Now look at this, the 2 words here. Why doesn't the Buddha just say angry? He also say resentful. Now, I suppose the first adjective here refers to how you feel. This, like you're a bit upset, you're not happy with something. Resentful is where you actually direct it to others, you express it, So that's one way of understanding it. Among who is angry, resentful, dwells without respect, without deference for the teacher. Right? So if you are upset about a teacher, you're not likely to respect him. Right? So then you lose that connectedness. You do not value the teaching. You won't listen to the teacher. So that's the second one. Dwells without respect, without deference for the Dharma too. Right? Notice that the two is there. So that you have the teacher, then the teaching. Dwells without respect, without deference for the Sangha too. And he does not fulfill the training. Right? So here you have 4 things. Teacher, teaching, the Sangha, the training. Right? So these are the 4 things that we need to fulfill as a practitioner, in other words. The first 3 are the 3 jewels that kind of tell us what are the 3 wonderful things which are the ideals of our life, and the 4th one is the path we follow. Then, conclusion, he causes dispute in the Sangha, in the community. Right? Among who is angry, resentful, dwells without respect, deference for the teacher, the Dhamma, the Sangha. It does not fulfill the training too. So he causes dispute in the Sangha, right? So everything's repeated and then says this is the cause, one of the causes of why people quarrel. 5. That dispute is neither good. It is neither for the good nor happiness of the many. Notice now the Buddha addresses the many, the people, right? It is for the harm, the loss of the many, the ill of devas and humans, right? The suffering of devas and humans. Notice here, devas and humans are mentioned. The Buddha is said to be teachers of gods and humans. Now, none of us have seen these gods. Of course, we have stories about them, and we hear stories about people seeing them, or we could sense them. But we don't really know who these gods are, but they're mentioned very clearly in the sutta. And in one of the suttas, the Buddha even said the devas exist, in that sense, but he doesn't go beyond that. It's as if he's saying, it's fine you believe it, it's fine you don't believe it, but the important thing is you should practice, right? And there is a practice called the Devatanusati. Now notice the practice is not Devanusati. It is Devatanusati. Many of us miss this interesting, significant point. Deva means, well, we can translate simply as God, fairy if you like, angel if you like, Deva. Deva has two etymologies. One means they are very playful, especially the lower gods, the lower sensual gods like Tavatimsa gods. They are very playful. Another etymological sense from which Deva is derived is they are bright, radiant, okay? And that describes all the gods. So Devata, now once you see this ta ending, the ta ending makes it an abstract noun. So, strictly speaking, although we do translate Devata as deity, right? But then again, you notice in English, when you say deity, there are two senses. One is, yes, as a sense of God, and also as a sense of godliness, abstract quality. So, when you speak of Devatanusati, it's better to translate as recollection on deity, or even recollection on godliness. So here, it's not so much we reflect on, oh, there are these gods, those gods, and then just kind of have a long list, kind of register or roll call of gods, but rather we reflect, how did these gods become joyful, beautiful, long life, and so on? They have done great good deeds. So may I to emulate them. In other words, we cultivate the quality of godliness. That's the meaning, right? So it's not worshipping of gods here, but we cultivate the quality of godliness. That's what the Devatanusati is about. So here the Buddha talks about devas and humans. From my study of the suttas after half a century, I must come to the conclusion that you can say the Buddha is talking about some kind of future situation here. I mean, we are at the portals, the beginning, the start of human life, human civilization beginning to contact outer space. Imagine there's a time when we are able to connect with aliens, we discover there are intelligent beings out there. Like long ago, we think we live in our village or our country. There are no human beings beyond that, So what if there are other kinds of beings beyond this universe? Then you find that they're different from us. They look different, they think different, and they have very different religions, if you can call it so. Then you begin to see many of the world's religions today will not fit them because they have a different world altogether, except for early Buddhism. You find when the Buddha teaches, what does he teach about? He doesn't tell you to worship some god. He talks about impermanence, which is found throughout the universe. He talks about suffering, which is found throughout the universe. So we can understand how these aliens also would be able to connect with Buddhism. For this reason, I think scientists like Einstein would say that the future religion must be a cosmic religion, And he is said to have mentioned that actually Buddhism would fit that kind of idea. So, and also you find the Buddha talks about his being a teacher of gods and humans in that sense. So the gods are always part of the Dhamma. So whenever we do something bad, the Buddha will say, well, if you do this, you affect the whole world, and the whole world also includes the gods, not just humans, So it's something to think about, right? Then 6. Bhikshus, if you were to see such a root of dispute within yourself, or without, meaning in others, then you, bhikshus, should strive to abandon that very bad root of dispute, right? So the moment you notice it, let go of it. Bhikshus, if you were not to see any root of dispute within yourself or without, it is in others, then you, bhikshus, should practice so that this very bad root of dispute does not overwhelm you in the future. So to prevent this, right? So if there's no such negative roots of quarrel, fine. Then you continue to live happily together, looking into each other's eyes, living like milk and water. So the first thing to clear away is anger and resentfulness. Here again you find the opposite is loving kindness. So if you're filled with loving kindness, then you find you are more accepting of others. They may differ in opinions with you, views are different, you still accept them, and you go along with what is agreeable and common. Look at number 8. This is how that bad root of dispute is abandoned. This is how the bad root of dispute does not overwhelm you in the future, right? So this is how you overcome this negative emotion. Now the second quality to avoid is section 9. Further, bhikshus, among is mean, spiteful, right? Makhi hoti palasi, right? Mean, spiteful, right? Mean kind of sense of very negative attitude to someone. Spiteful means wishing harm to this person, right? So here again, everything repeats itself. The Buddha says if you have this kind of meanness, then you will not respect the 3 jewels. You will not respect the training. Well, I've seen this happen, often enough. Only last week someone wrote to me a long letter saying, he says he's come to a crisis of faith. He's seeing all these different temples talking against each other and all this sectarianism, and he's at a loss on what to do. So my reply is, well, why don't you just study the suttas yourself? I mean, if your aim is to awaken, to reach the path of awakening, then you can, anywhere you can study the suttas, get a few friends together, right? Then I've also seen monks who have not finished their nisaya, they have not completed their 5 years tutelage. They want to have a center. They already have lots of ideas. Oh yes, I know the teaching very well. No matter how clever you may be, if you miss those 5 years, you will never last as a monk. So he was trying to contact some rich people to get sponsors to get a center. And these rich people contacted me. He said, what do you think? I said, if it's below 5 years, the answer is definitely no, because it won't last long. So we told him directly, you have to find a good teacher, go to him, spend time with him. He tried, but he just only spent 1 or 2 vasas, and then he's out again, wandering around. And before you know it, he's already given up his training. In other words, he couldn't really fulfill his duties as a monk. In fact, I could sense a lot of anger in him, a lot of meanness. So once you're like that, you will never be a good monk. I mean, imagine a monk or a nun who quarrels with other monks and nuns, quarrels with lay people, is not a very good sign. So those 5 years are what gives you the hang of it, as they say. It really makes you a monk or a nun, at least as a person. Right? So those 5 years are very vital. That's the years of internship, if you like. Okay? Right, so meanness and spitefulness have to be uprooted. Next, section 16, envy and selfishness. Section 16. Furthermore, bhikshus, a monk is envious, selfish, isuki, hoti, machari, right? So here envious meaning you lack the third immeasurable, divine abode. Being joyful in the success and goodness of others, right? So you feel kind of you reject the success of others. You're not happy with them, and because of that, you also become more self-centered. So that again is not very helpful. It's going to make you give up the training. You find faults with others. Right? So this is the thing. Once being to find fault with others, then you find you will not get along with them, and it's going to tire you. You will lack the energy to practice the Dharma. Now, if you do go to a very peaceful monastery, and most of these monasteries, good monasteries, they are located in the forest, in the beautiful, peaceful forest. And when you go there, you also see this space, so you feel you have this very good sense of peace and joy. And you find that it's very easy to practice. Even the animals, they are friendly. So if you have the inner environment that is negative, then you also lose that connection with what is good outside of yourself. Then even though you're in this really wonderful in this very good environment, you will not be able to practice. So that's the danger. Okay? Now then, section 4, that is 23. Furthermore, bhikshus, a monk is crafty, deceitful, sato hoti mayavi. Okay? Crafty, that means having all these ideas about how to take advantage of others. Monks know very well, lay people are a crowd. People tend to follow the crowd. And once somebody says, oh, so-and-so is a good teacher, everyone tends to agree. Or at least they would together go with the flow and respect this teacher. So some monks, they knowing this, they try to gain some kind of respect, a benefit of the crowd. So they'll come and tell you all kind of stories, you know, and to gain your faith. But whether the stories is true or not is another problem. So here we need wisdom, that we as lay people, we should not encourage the monastic to lie or to desire worldly things. Then it will affect their own practice, and we won't learn from them either. Okay, so this is the danger with being crafty. It ends up the person being deceitful too. The fifth pair now, bad desires and wrong views. Section 30. Furthermore, bhikshus, a monk is one with bad desire, with wrong views. Papicha, hoti, miccha ditti. Right, so here, bad desire refers to worldly desires. So instead of just meditating, being happy with the robes that he has, with the food that he gets, and with his lodging and his health, he says, oh, I want a bigger center, or I want a bigger Buddha image, or I want a nice vehicle, or I want to aircon my kuti, whatever. So once we have this kind of desire, then you're going to have difficulties. What happens is usually devotees will come to the monasteries or the retreat centers, and then they move around. They say, "Oh, your kuti, the roof is leaking, so I will repair this for you," or something. Yeah, that is allowable. There are cases where even the king would say, "Okay, I'll build you a hut to this particular monk. The rain is coming," and the fun part was he forgot all about it. King's being so busy. So this poor forest monk had no hut, and he didn't complain. He didn't go to the king and say, "Your Majesty, you forgot about the hut." He didn't say that either. He just sat down under a tree. In one case, this monk was a great arhat, So because this poor monk, well, he was not poor in the normal sense of the word. We're talking poor in the sense that the king forgot to build this kuti for him, and he's an arhat. The story went that the rain did not fall, Now, I don't know whether this actually happened or not, that the arahats have control over the weather. But the point of the story is this. The rain did not fall, and the people were telling, "Now, what's going on here? Normally the rain has come." The first people they will blame is the king. He says, "Are you keeping the precepts?" Now, this is what I was telling my friends on Facebook, I say, look at US today. They have lots of problems with their trade and so on, and the problem is going to go big, And who is at fault? It's the leader, The leader has this ability, duty to change things, or at least lessen the burden of the people. So then, this coming back to the story, so this king said, "Well, I've been keeping the precepts, Then he sends people out to find out, what's going on. Are there any bad ascetics causing problems? Then he found out, he forgotten to build this kuti for this arahat, So he did just that, and then the rain fell. So that's the story, you see. It's an instructive story. Right? Okay, now we come to the last pair. Number 6, caught up in views and tenaciously so. Right? 37. Furthermore, bhikshus, a monk is one who is stuck to his own views, tenaciously holding on to them, unable to let go. Okay? Then you have the Pali words, right? Notice there are two parts here. One is he has his own views, in other words, private views. Pacceka ditti. And because of that, he holds on to it. He says, "This is my opinion," right? Now, this is one of those very difficult points in religion. We all have views. The important thing to understand here is that the word view means a way of looking, meaning there are many ways of looking. So we have not realized the complete truth. Okay? So the lesson here is that as long as we are not awakened, we are not even stream-winners yet, there are possibilities of other ways of looking at this truth. But it doesn't mean that any way will do. Again, you have to be very careful, right? So, for example, someone may say, "Oh, all the forms of Buddhism are correct, As long as you put the word Buddhist there, you're okay." But that's not always the case. Then, suppose someone comes along and say, "Oh, we are Buddhists and we're going to kill our enemies, so that the Dhamma will last longer." But then we are destroying our own basic teachings, right? So there are basic things which are very clear, which we have to follow. The 5 precepts especially are very clear. What should be done, should not be done, right? So this idea of basic teachings are very important. Okay? So we cannot say, for example, that taking life is all right. Okay? That's wrong view. That giving is not good. That's wrong view. Generosity, right? That loving kindness is not helpful. Things like that. So these are basic things which we need to accept and to investigate, to understand. And of course, in terms of practice, the idea of impermanence, the reflection of impermanence is the key. Right? So when we look at things, we find that this is how we understand this situation at this time. Then you find there are many other competing views coming in. Okay? So because of these competing views, we tell ourselves, okay, let me think about what I understand here. And from there you build up, you focus what you understand. So over time you find you change your mind, right? Right? If you study the suttas over many decades, you find your understanding becomes clearer. And when your understanding becomes clearer, you will naturally let go of your previous views. This is called growth. This is called understanding, in other words. You go step by step. Okay? And this is very important. You let go of something old for something new and better. Okay? So the Eightfold Path is like that. So there you are. So this is the meaning of this last part. No? So here again you find all these 6 pairs of roots of quarrel can be summarized by way of the 4 biases. Okay, let's look at the first pair. Section 2. Anger. One is angry, resentful. Okay. Now here you can greed, hate, delusion, fear. Which you think are connected here? This, yeah, mostly would be hatred, right? Hatred. But remember, this is just one bias only, you see. It could be any of them, you see. But this is the key one. For example, the person may have desire, see. But because his desire has been thwarted, prevented by, say, the action of the teacher, he gets angry, right? So in other words, desire can lead to hatred also. So it's quite tricky. But the key, the proximate cause would be hatred, right? Greed, hatred, delusion, fear. Okay, let's look at the next one, section 9. Furthermore, bhikshus among is mean and spiteful. Okay, which are the 4? Greed, hate, delusion, fear. Greed. Okay. What else? How does greed lead to meanness and spitefulness?
Because you cannot get what you want.
In other words, hatred arises. Right, so the immediate one is hatred, right? Of course, you see, the thing is this, greed in the form of craving underlies everything, all right? Right, but here the immediate cause, the proximate cause we call it, is hatred, all right? Okay, then envious and selfish. Envy and selfishness, about this. 62, yes. Now here again, you have 2 of the what they call biases: the bias of greed and the bias of hate. Okay. By the way, when you come to this 4, the set of 4, they are called chanda, dosa, moha, lobha. Chanda is desire. And then the hate is dosa, and then delusion is moha, and then the fear is bhaya. Okay, so you have the word agati at the end. So chanda gati, and then you have dosa gati, moha gati, and then the bhaya gati. Then the next one is 23. Further, bhikshus among is crafty, deceitful. Craftiness and deceitfulness. So this one would be greed. Because he's greedy, so he starts thinking in ways of how to cheat people and so on.
How about hate? Hate.
Possible too, yes, yeah. That's why I say it can be any of the four biases actually. Then bad deeds, wrong views, bad desire rather, negative desires, worldly desires. Here of course obvious, no? Here you have two. First one of course is greed, and the second one is to do with delusion, right? The bias of greed and delusion. And then the last one, number 6, wrong views. Stuck to his own views, and he keeps on holding on to it. This of course would be delusion. Right? It could also be fear, because some people, they fear, so they believe, oh, there is a self that doesn't die, and so on. So these are how we reflect on these 6 pairs of negative emotion in terms of the 4 biases: greed, hate, delusion, fear. Okay, any questions or feedback?
So do you get all the quarrels in the world by all the and therefore sound about the good hatred emotions?
Oh, definitely. There's always, they go back to those roots. Of course, the politicians are very good in the craftiness. You won't know what is it exactly they want. They always will come up with some other reason. Yeah? So now, for example, North Korea shooting rockets because he wants to meet the American president, right? So there you are. That's politics. Because politics has to do with power, you see. Whereas Buddhism is just the opposite. What do the monks renounce? When you say renounce the world, you are renouncing power, pleasure. Especially these 2 things. This is what money buys. Money buys power, money buys pleasure. Okay? Of course, comfort is there. I mean, you have all the 4 basic things, that will be provided to you by the lay people. So it is, what do you call that? Contradiction in terms. If the monastic talk in terms of power, or they run after pleasure, and what is there left to renounce? Okay? Any other feedback or questions? So today, this is our last lesson for the Buddhist year, according to Southeast Asian calculation, that is, or Singapore calculation. Next week is Vesak already. One of the most meaningful way of celebrating Vesak is to go to a beautiful garden, and now you got lots of gardens in Singapore. Jurong East, you got the gardens getting bigger, so also the botanic gardens, and just look at a tree, one of those, your favorite big old tree, just reflect on the Buddha sitting under there. So if you have faith and you understand that teaching, it's a very powerful reflection. Seeing this beautiful tree, and imagine the Buddha could sit under that tree for years, and all these great teachings that we have today, which emperors and kings and great men have followed, came from under a tree. It's amazing, So that's a very wonderful way of reflecting on the spirit of Vesak. Yeah. And here for the moment. Another Buddhist year is ending. So we have been keeping up our study of the suttas as time goes by. Some suttas are quite short and easy, some can be rather long and engaging. But these are instructions given to us over time. And studying suttas also goes over time as it's like first reading, and then in time to come we look at it again, and our understanding deepens and widens, and that's how we enrich our life through a deeper and a better understanding of the Buddha's teaching. In doing so, we begin to see our lives in clearer light also, and live a life of greater meaning and quality, so that we don't get caught up with the blind flow of the crowd. Keeping this in mind, by the power of the Buddha's teaching and the three jewels, may we be well and happy. Especially may we be blessed with the courage and wisdom to aspire to attain stream winning in this life itself. Meantime, may we be well and happy. May our loved ones still be well and happy. And may those who are practicing the Dhamma to attain the fruit of their practice in this life itself. And may those who are lost and seeking the truth to find the joy of the true Dhamma in this life itself. May all beings be well and happy. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.